Hello everyone, it's Becky here and welcome back to my channel and welcome back to new video. Today I am very excited because I am finally doing my August wrap-up, although I know that the time when this video comes out, still we have a couple days left in August, but I don't think I will be able to finish any more books for this month, so I just decided to film this video now because my flatmate is away for a while, so I thought that I'll just use this opportunity of having, you know, empty flat and I'll just film this video. And I'm very excited because I did read absolutely wonderful books in August, and actually quite a lot of them for me, because usually in 1 month I don't read as much as I did in August. So without further ado, I will just start and I'll be telling you about these books, and I really hope you will enjoy this. Please let me know if you read any of these books, or if maybe there is a book which inspired you to edit it to your TBR, because I would really love to know. So the first book which I finished in August, and actually I think it was like maybe last day of July or something like this, so I added it into my August TBR, and it's a book called Pachinko. And if you've been following me for a while, you know how excited I was to finally finish this book, because Pachinko, I started to read this originally in, I believe, April, because it was a read-along organized by lovely Gemma from Gem of Books, and I wanted to participate so much because I wanted to read Pachinko for a very long time. But then, as many of you know, in April I had to take a little break from Booktube and also from readings in general, because there was a lot of going on in my life, and I was just putting this book aside, and I was thinking, okay, I'll just finish it in a couple days, then a couple weeks, then a couple months, and suddenly it was like half of July and I still did not finish the book. And wonderful thing about this book was that once I picked it up again after several months, it was so easy for me to get back into the story. I did not have to try hard to remember what actually happened, but within just a few pages I could immediately find myself in the story, like who are the characters, what is happening, and I just wanted to keep reading. And once I finally picked this book up, I finished it within a few days, and it's quite a thick one. But absolutely brilliant. So this book follows basically a story of several generations of one family, and it can see on the first side that the main character is Sunya, who found herself pregnant with a man who actually was married and had his own family on his own, although he just did not tell her, because why would you bother telling this, you know, small details about your life to someone? And basically from that point we follow her life and the life of her sons and life of her family. And what is absolutely great about this book as well is that it really gives you a good insight into traditions and culture of Japan and also South Korea, and especially follows the relationship between these two countries during the war and after the war and pre-war, because the book is set, I have a note, it's basically set from 1910 to 1989, so it's a really long generational novel and absolutely wonderful. I loved every single character here. And for example, for me, when I do read books which contains stories of several generations, sometimes I find myself a little, not annoyed, but once I get used to one character, I do want to keep reading about that character, and I don't really like switching to another character and make that character sort of like the main character of the story, if that makes sense. But with this book I absolutely did not mind, and I enjoyed reading this as it was. I was just so into the story and I really wanted to keep reading, and I wanted to finish it as soon as possible. There was constantly something happening. I feel the characters were absolutely perfectly described and great developed. It was real, and also, as I said, it really reflects a lot of like historical details and also the culture and history, and you learn a lot about these cultures. And I really do enjoy reading about Japanese culture. Recently I read a couple books and I did really enjoy it, so I would like to continue read books like this. And what is also great about this concrete book is that in this edition at the end there is an interview with the author who was writing this book for 30 years, so that was really incredible to read about. And also you do have several questions, I believe like 9, for a group discussion talking about the story, so you can I'm really hoping to read this book as a part of our physical book club. I pitched this book as one of the ideas because I would love to discuss this book with more people, and I could not feel more sorry that I missed the read along, because I feel like it would be absolutely brilliant experience. But yeah, this book absolutely great, also this edition, because of the interview with the author and also the questions. And there was something more I wanted to say about this. Oh yeah, so just to warn you, obviously, because this book is set in the time period when there is a lot of war happening, there are also some trigger warnings regarding, for example, death, war, imprisoning, and all the consequences of the war. So in times is not very easy to read because it might make you a little bit emotional. It certainly did it to me, but other than that, this book was absolutely wonderful, and I believe that many of you heard about Pachinko before, and if you are still questioning whether to read it or not, please do, because it's absolutely wonderful. The second book I finished in August, and I'm so excited because finally I read this book, and if you've been following me for a while, you know how excited I was to finish this book, which I purchased for my name day. And I'm so happy. I read this book, which is a little bit thicker, I think in like 2 days or 3 days maximum, which is very unusual for me because usually I'm very slow reader and I like to take time with my books. But this one I just went like, phew, I read it so quickly, but in the same time I really wish that this book would never end, because in a way I think it's one of the books which will become my comfort read. But anyway, I'll just tell you first what's the story about. So we meet our main character Hazel, who is a young girl, I believe 17 years old, and she lives in Edinburgh in 1817. Yes, 1817, that's how you say it in English. Sorry, basically, yeah. She lives in Edinburgh, and more than anything she wants to become a surgeon, but in that specific time period it's mainly impossible. Like, women are not surgeons, they are not doctors, that's not what they do. Everyone is like, yeah, sure, it's your childhood dream, but we know that you will get married and you will organize tea parties, and that will be the main way how you spend your time. So she is really determined to become a doctor, and she wants to take the classes from this prominent surgeon and doctor in a town. However, she is not allowed as a woman, but she is able to meet him, and they do an agreement between them that if she will be able to pass some exams, she will be allowed to attend the classes and then do the proper exams for becoming a surgeon, and she will be allowed to be a part of the like doctors and surgeons society in Edinburgh. So she needs to find a way how she can be, you know, preparing herself for this exam. And luckily enough, she meets the young guy called Jack, who is working as a resurrection man. So that means that he is basically getting rid of, you know, people who died, and he is burying the bodies. But then they somehow get together, and thanks to him she gets an access to basically dead bodies to examine them and learn from them. And there is this whole story unwrapping from that, and I'm not gonna tell you anything else because obviously there is so much more happening, such as, for example, her parents trying to set her up with some, you know, like prominent guy, especially her cousin, I believe it was, and she should get married with him. So yeah, all of the stories like this happening in this one, and I absolutely loved it. The story, I gave it 4 stars because I must say that I think that I did see the ending coming, and in a way the story was quite predictable, and there were some sort of like cliche parts which you would say, oh, I really hope it could be more original. But in the same way, I did absolutely love the vibes of this story, because it's sort of like gothic mystery novel set in, you know, like Edinburgh in 1817. So yeah, the best I can ask for. So I really think that this is one of those cases which I will reread the book. I must also say that there was a little plot twist at the end which I did not see coming, and I did not expect that, so that was a good thing. But other than that, it was a little bit predictable but still wonderful. And I mean, look at the cover, I'm in love. Yeah, pink cover. So yeah, highly recommend you to pick this book up. Absolutely wonderful. And then if there is anyone who read this book, please let me know, because I'm dying to speak about it with someone. So yeah, Anatomy, a Love Story, highly recommend. My friends, winter is coming because I am not getting enough light here for filming, and it's August. It's not even like September, but yeah, it's so dark. It's been raining for so many days now, and yeah, I'm very sad. Anyway, the third book which I'm going to be talking about, and I'm picking up my tea because I don't have a physical copy of this book anymore because I left it back home, is the Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. And this book was so gorgeous. I gave it 5 stars, and I started to read this book when I was flying home last month, and I wanted to have it as an airport read because airports are crazy in these days and you have to wait for ages in order to get through the security. So I took the book and I had several hours to read this, and I read, I believe it was like first half of the book during as I was waiting at the airport, and I absolutely loved it. But then I decided to leave the book home because I just did not have enough space in my luggage on the way back. So the main character of this book is, as you can guess from the title, Eleanor Oliphant, and she is a very special person who has absolutely zero social skills. But she's such a good person who had very difficult childhood, and she was going from one foster family to another. She had very her mother had very abusive relationship towards her, and obviously there was a lot of trauma coming from her childhood because of some events that happened. And the way this book is written is basically that you know already at the beginning that something happened, but the author won't tell you what was it almost until the very end, and it really keeps you hooked and you really want to know. But other than this, the book was written so beautifully that still you want to keep reading it. I feel like even if this would not have even if there would not be this mystery of what actually happened or what is the incident, I believe that I would really love to read the whole book anyway, because just the way how the characters were built and reading about Eleanor and her life and her personality was just something really, really interesting and really special. And basically at the beginning of the story we meet her as a loner. She is a very lone person who has one plant which basically dies during the story anyway. And she has almost, as I said, very bad social skills until the point she meets Raymond, who is her co-worker. Who is her colleague, I will say, who is her colleague. And together, very randomly, they will save life of a man on the street. Neither of them knew, but this will connect them for sort of like a future, and they will build a relationship of the friendship from that. And it's just very interesting. I would also say that this book is one of the best characters development stories I read in quite a long while, and to following the journey of Eleanor was just absolutely wonderful, and I loved her so much. I must confess that at the very beginning I was slightly annoyed with some of the comments she was making, but you can understand through the story why she is like that, and I just absolutely loved it. To point you straight at the beginning, there are some trigger warnings to be aware of, especially when it comes to, for example, mental health issues and abuse and also death, and it's not easy story to read. I would say in many times it made me a little bit emotional, and in certain parts it is slightly sad, but at the same time it's wonderful, definitely worth it to read, and it's also so funny. I mean, honestly, in some places I was laughing out loud. It was absolutely brilliant. And yeah, I think it's definitely one of the books I will reread at some point, and I read this, as I said, the first half at the airport, and then the last part of it was read when I was back home, and I just could not put the book down. And in a way I really did not want it to end. Also at the end there was a big like surprise for me, which I'm obviously not gonna spoil, but honestly, this book is a masterpiece. Like, I heard really good reviews about this before I picked this up, but I loved it. I loved it. So if you're considering that maybe reading this, please do, because it's absolutely wonderful. Right, moving to another airport read, which I was basically reading on the way back. It's ebook, and it's a non-fiction. And it's such a short read that I've literally read it on the airport, and it's called 84 Charing Cross Road. And guys, this book is so wonderful, and I seriously cannot believe that this book is non-fiction, because it just sounds like absolutely wonderful idea for a fiction book which you would absolutely fall in love with, same as I did. And thank you very much actually for this suggestion. I don't remember who suggested it now again, but I had this in my video about non-fiction recommendation which you recommended, so if you were looking for some ideas for non-fiction to read, you can check out the video as well. But this book, oh my goodness, that was so wonderful, honestly. The main character here, or well, the main character, basically at the very beginning we realized that this book is written through letters. So it's a selection of correspondence between the author Helen Hunt, who was a freelance author based in New York, and she needed some books which she was not able to find in New York, so she wrote to this little second-hand bookstore in London and to the owner, and she was asking them if they have certain copies of certain books she needed. And that's how the conversation with the owner, Frank Doyle, I believe was his name, the owner of the shop, how the conversation started. And this conversation lasted over, I believe it was 20 years, from 1949 to 1969, and it was absolutely incredible. And through these letters we basically get to know each of these characters and also their families and their life situation they've been going on, and everything that happened in their life during this time. And also obviously there is a talk about books, and the setting is a bookshop, and there is a writer, and it's just so wonderful, honestly. Like, one of the books which I will definitely reread at some point. And as I said, I cannot believe it's a non-fiction, and I don't think there is anything else for me to say other than just highly recommend you to read it, because you can read this within one afternoon and it's pure joy. Like, if you like reading about books and bookstores and kind and lovely people and writing and London and New York, and oh my goodness, just read it, please. Oh. Right, so moving to another book which I finished quite recently is called How to Burn This Book by author Evan Whitmer. And this is one of the craziest book I have ever read, and I believe I will ever read. It's a collection of short stories, and basically after every short story there is another short story which is explaining why you should burn the previous story you just read. Very interesting idea. I was very kindly approached by this author at the beginning of the year, and he sent me this book to read, and it was really interesting experience for me, because in general I do not read short stories very much, and if I do, it usually takes me quite a longer time to get through the book, because I just like the idea when I, you know, like some character in the book, I would like to read about that character, but then with short stories usually it ends. So that's also why I do not read short stories very much. But with this book, I must say that the characters meeting in these short stories, they were so versatile and so crazy that I just did not mind moving on to another short story and to another character, because I really wanted to know what's gonna happen in the next story. Although they are not really connected like these stories, but it's just absolutely crazy. We meet a raccoon who is sort of like mixed with alien. We have it's so much happening here, and I would say that the writing of this story really reminds me Douglas Adams, for example, especially in the humor wise, if that makes sense. Like, you don't really know whether to take certain sentences seriously or not, but I do like this type of humor, and I must say that every single story, or even the idea of these stories, they're very unique. I guarantee you never read anything like this. I must say that my personal favorite from these stories would be, I believe it was called Wash, and basically that has an idea that the memories are stored on or under our skin instead of in the memory. So whenever you either take a shower or you get wet, basically you wash off the memories and you kind of lose them. If you get hands on this book, I would highly recommend you to pick this up and give it a try, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this, because it's really one of the most interesting things I ever read, and I don't think I will ever read anything like this before, because just the characters and settings and the ideas and what is happening in the story, like, it's really original. Also, it's very rare, I would say, that when you're reading some book that you would realize that there is nothing you came across before already, like, tropes or plots or similar cliche ideas, but this is really from like different universe, but very good one. So I would highly recommend you to pick this book up if you have a chance, and then we can have a chat about it, because wow. Right, and moving to the last book, which I still have few chapters to finish, but I believe I will finish it today, but I just had to film the video. It's called A Single Thread, and I'm reading this book as a buddy read with lovely Nikki from Red Dot Reads, and this is a historical fiction written by Tracy Chevalier, and I read 2 books already by this author and I really enjoyed them, so I was very excited to pick this book up and read it. But I mean, I do enjoy the writing and I do enjoy reading this book, and it's very interesting because in one hand I feel like there is not as much happening in this book, but in the same time I still keep reading it and I do want to finish it now as soon as possible because I want to know what's gonna happen. But anyway, the plot of the story. So here we meet our main character Violet, who is actually 38 years old, which is not very usual for me to read about. Most of the time you come across younger women or then much older women in the books, but this one is 38 years old, she is unmarried, and this is basically like time period, like aftermath of the First World War. So for her being unmarried in that time, it was something, people were looking at you in a certain way. The reason why she's unmarried is because she lost her fiance and also her brother in the war. And basically this story follows Violet as she decided to leave her hometown and her mother, who they had very difficult relationship, especially after her brother passed away, because something like this as a mother, it obviously changes you a lot, but the way she was dealing with it was not very nice, especially towards Violet. So Violet decided to take a step back and she moved to a different town and started to live on her own. And at certain point she decided to join like a club or society of women who are doing embroidery for the cathedral, and from there the story basically unwraps. But one issue I have with this story is that I don't really know what is the main point of this story so far, because I do have just very few chapters left and I'm hoping that something big would happen or something better will happen, but unless anything major will change or happen, I think this will be like 3 stars for me. If there will be any, you know, like big change or something that will change my mind, I will definitely mention it in my upcoming video, but for now I decided to mention this in my wrap up because I don't see anything like that coming yet. I like writing style, I like the writing of Tracy Chevalier, but one issue I have with this book that I don't really know what is actually the main point. Is it Violet trying to have her life on her own? Is it her falling in love? Because there is also one love story happening, but I'm not very happy about it, to be honest, because it's with them, well, it's not officially a love story, but he is married, and it's something, you know, I'm not a huge fan of. I already read one book called The Highland Witch last year, and I absolutely, like, that book was one of the best things I have ever read, except the fact that the love interest of the main character was married, and it's just something that completely destroys the story for me. So not great. And so I'm questioning whether this love story should be the main plot, or if it should be Violet moving away from her house and starting her own life, or then we also have one story of 2 other characters unwrapping there. So I'm guessing whether that could be the main point, and I'm struggling a little bit here to point what is actually the main plot of the story. But other than that, I do enjoy it. I love reading with Nikki because we are sending voice messages over the Voxer, and it's just absolutely wonderful. So as soon as I finish this book, I will probably leave the review on my Instagram at least, so you can access it there. And then, as I said, unless nothing major will happen, it will be 3 stars. If something special will happen, we'll see about that, and I would let you know in the next video. So, yes. And with this book, I am basically wrapping my August wrap-up, and yeah, I don't think there's anything else I wanted to say for now. Also, thank you very much for all of you who reacted to my previous video when I was doing the September TBR, because I already have people for buddy reads, and it's amazing, and I'm very excited. And if you read any of these books, as I mentioned at the beginning, please let me know what you think of them, and I would really love to chat with you about that in the comments. And also let me know what is your favorite book you read in August, because I would love to know that. And without further ado, I will say bye, take care, and I will see you with another video very soon. Bye bye!